All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler podcast, powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. And we are back with the captain, Mr. Andy Full. And as always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbrett. Andy, it's good to be back. Good to be back for the both of us here. I know we had this old Hamner and I running solo on Tuesday evening, but it's good to have the crew back. A consistent week. We're both not in too much of chaos, and we got ourselves a fun show tonight.
Yeah, sorry I missed Tuesday night. I was driving home from Connecticut, and I got home like an hour before. I had to get my boat fixed before we have some big derbies coming up. So, yeah, that was fun. 2-day hiatus. Drank a lot of good beer while we were up there in New England. Ate some donuts because it's the home of the donut, which I never knew. So, like, every coffee shop I went into, I was like, give me a donut, the best one. And they're all fantastic. Just those things. But, yeah. Drank great beer, got my boat fixed. Everything's working great. And got home Tuesday, missed the podcast, and I've been guiding every day since. And then this weekend I'm off and got a couple busy weeks of guiding and tournaments. So it's going to be fun. What's up with you, man? Hey, by the way, congrats on AOI, the NYKBF championship, right?
It's
championship.
Local deal.
That's awesome.
Still fun. But we can talk about that on another show because we want to get right to the point tonight.
Yes.
So we'll lay it out. And we talked, briefly with the guys here offline too. It's been the buzz for the past couple weeks, and originally Andy and I were kind of just monitoring everything. We had talked about it internally. We really didn't want to get in on the conversation too much because there was a lot of people saying, pretty insightful stuff for and against, but we had a lot of people come to us asking us to actually speak about it. And while Andy and I think we have good viewpoints on it, we wanted to talk to guys that are professionals, experts with it, and see both sides, and especially get on people that can put emotion to the side. We see a lot of that nowadays, not even just fishing, but emotion controls certain debates and discussions. And we wanted something that would be insightful, unbiased, just people that live and breathe with this technology and can see the ins and outs and look at it from different perspectives. So we got an awesome crew joining us here, and we won't waste any time getting them on here and getting this discussion rolling. But obviously we're talking about forward-facing sonar tonight. And we were talking about it offline briefly. It's been almost nauseating how much it's been talked about. So we're going to talk about it tonight at length, but then this is going to be our stance on it. And it honestly needs to move past, but we thought this would be a great discussion with these guys.
Real quick, all we need is the next thing to come out, and all the banter forward-facing sonar will go away.
Something to distract everybody. Well, I think without further ado, let's bring him on here. We'll start with a fellow who's no stranger to the show, podcaster himself, Mr. Josh Bertrand. What's going on, man?
What's up, guys? Hey, I think it's funny that you guys think this is the last time you're going to talk about it. And same with Joey. There's no chance you're done talking about this, Joey. You're just getting started, bro. So, welcome to the party. Yeah, it's just getting started.
That's right. And a perfect transition there, Josh, for we have Mr. Joey Cifuentes, Rookie of the Year, joining us as well.
This thing has been out for how many years now? There's no way that why is it just now coming up? I don't get it. I don't get that. Yeah.
And then last but not least, taking a hiatus from cutting up an elk for us, Mr. Brandon Palaniuk.
What's up, guys? Yeah, I really just came here because I needed a break. I felt like I was getting tired of cutting elk. I was going to chop a finger off, so figured I'd just take a break and just listen in.
Yeah, will be your excuse anytime, buddy. But hey, congrats on the elk. That's freaking awesome.
Thank
man. But fellas, I think without further ado, what we'll do is you've all been on the show before. We can link the episodes down before if guys want to hear more about you guys individually. But we're here to talk about the topic at hand tonight. Being forward-facing sonar. So I think really quick, we'll go around the horn with you three and kind of just give, with all the craze that's been recent, in debate of forward-facing sonar, your stance on it and what your point of view and your feeling of it is. And, we'll go right to left here and start with you, Josh. Just kind of quick, your point of view of it all.
Yeah, I've obviously, really enjoyed it. I think it helps me be more successful on the water. So, as a guy that likes to fish and compete and a competitive person in general, hey man, I mean, it's helped me catch more fish. So, I mean, that's a really basic viewpoint, but I love it. You know, I've had it. I was one of the, original guys, I was with Garmin when it was like just getting cool to get with Garmin. And it was right when Panoptix started in 2016. And, Panoptix was good. And then LiveScope was even better. But I've been using it since 2016. So like, it's kind of, I've had it for, what is that now? Is that 8 years, 7 years? So I'm a big fan.
For sure. Joey?
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's nothing cooler when I first started using it, watching a fish eat your bait, on live screen. I mean, it's a blast. Everybody I talk to, my buddies that fish around, I mean, they love it. Like, it's a cool way to catch fish, very effective way to catch fish, the most effective way I think we have now. So I'm all about it, man. I love it.
And Brandon, round us out.
I guess you could say I'm mixed on it, but I'm probably more pro forward-facing sonar because I haven't seen any like legitimate studies or anything saying that it's bad for legitimate reasons. I understand some of the arguments that are out there, but I don't think that those are necessarily the technology's fault either. People are just blaming it on the technology. If it was like the end all be all, not Josh the bus, but since he brought it up that he's been doing it probably as long as anybody on any pro tour. Josh, this was like one of your toughest years ever, right?
Oh yeah, big time, dude.
Competing wise. So if you have a guy that has been doing it longer than everybody else, like why would he have the toughest year this year, right? Like should be way ahead of everybody. So it's not like you just put your trolling motor down, use it, and you just go catch fish. There's so many other aspects to the game that I don't know. A lot of the arguments are valid and a lot of them are not. Right? You said early in the show they're emotional based. I'm not going to get into all of it right now because you've got questions and stuff. But to me, like I enjoy using it as an angler. I've learned a ton, like things that I thought fish did or the way that they reacted. I used to be a guy and still am pretty basic in colors, but I do carry more colors now because I've seen situations where you can throw the exact same bait and you just change a color and all of a sudden you get a bite. Now, for me as a competitor and just as a student of the game, whether I competed or not, I think it's awesome to like open up more techniques and like different ways to catch them and understanding colors and things that we thought like, oh, it's clear water, you have to throw a translucent color. Like a lot of that stuff is kind of gone out the window.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit on something really good there that we'll get into a little bit deeper later in the show. And it's something I feel strongly about as well, as I don't think with the technology, it's accelerated how much we understand about the bass or any fish for that matter, that we can learn about their behavior that we couldn't before that, or at least as well before that technology. That's personally what I love about it. What Andy and I love about it is we talk about it, students of the game, like your learning curve of just understanding how these fish behave with each other, alone, and with other species has gone through the roof. And we hit on it that this has been around since, Josh, you said 2015 or 16. Mm-hmm. And feel free to interject here, but I guess we'll lead with you, Josh. Why do you think this is becoming a conversation now, 7, 8, 9 years later?
For sure, because everyone's getting it, right? Like, I mean, when it first came out, it was just the Garmin guys. Now all three brands have their own version of it and everybody's using it and everyone's getting better with it. It's one of those things that there's tournaments where it'll surprise you. You don't think it's going to be a factor and it somehow is, right? And, I just think the way things laid out, especially this summer, it just kind of dominated the scene, and it dominated the scene earlier in the year in a couple tournaments where people didn't expect that to happen. And, this is all coming from tournament fishing. You know what I mean? It's coming from tournament fishing, and, it's been the headline. And hey, one thing too is like when someone has something negative to say online, people just love to put gas on that fire. Right. And like, I'm not looking at it like it's been a negative thing, but like there's a lot of people speaking of it in a negative way. And a lot of that is coming from just their own maybe personal opinions, or, not, again, like Brandon said, there's not any research behind it. There's no data behind it. It's just someone that wants to be loud. And hey, there are there's valid arguments on both sides about this thing for multiple reasons, but I think it's a mix of the way the tournament season went, and then just people wanting to jump on the bandwagon of negativity, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I want to make a quick call out before we go to Joey here, that last night, Alex Rudd, folks don't follow his channel or anything, I plugged that in the description. He had Gene Gilland from Bass to talk specifically from a biologist standpoint about forward-facing sonar and the environmental and conservation aspects of this. And I think for anyone that's for and against, really more for against, like, go listen to that, because I think it's pretty insightful, and it's actually factual statements being had from the guy that lives and breathes learning these fish and how it actually, forward-facing could impact fisheries. And I've had conversations with Stephen Barden. Josh, you and I talked about it with MLF, and he's got pretty similar opinions on a lot of this is kind of being an overreaction, but we'll get into that later in the show. But, same question to you, Joey. Why do you think this is becoming conversation now rather than when it was introduced?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Josh. I mean, it was, Tyler winning. I mean, on the Elite Series, Tyler winning, Okeechobee on it. That was kind of weird, but at the same time, you had 9 other guys on camera that were fishing normal. So I don't understand the complaining. It wasn't like we were just all watching, forward-facing sonar all year long. So I think that, just the year, and I honestly don't know. I asked that question earlier. I don't know what the hype is about it right now. I really don't understand it. I'm here to learn too. So
yeah, for sure. Brandon, any 2 cents on that?
Well, I think a lot of the guys that had it at first saw the power in it and kept it under wraps as long as they could, right? And then it slowly started to leak out. And like Josh said, now all the major brands have a version of forward-facing sonar. And I mean, it's not any different than when I had Met 360 and a bunch of people didn't. Like, that gave me a huge advantage. It's no different than when guys got side imaging for the first time, and like how much more ground you could cover offshore. Like, you could idle down the ledge and just see the schools of bass on your side imaging. You have to idle over them with 2D sonar. Like, nobody complains about GPS mapping or GPS and like contour lines, but contour, like, think about how crazy it is that you don't have to hold out a paper map and then try to figure out where you're going to. Like, a lot of the younger guys have never used or bought a paper map. But I'm only 35, but when I started, like, you still went and bought paper maps. That was a thing, because a lot of the lakes didn't have the HD contours that they have. Now I can just scroll around on my Solix unit, or I can get on my iPad on an app and I can scroll around and I can mark waypoints and I can drive straight to it, and then I can just spot lock right there and fish it.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of other technology from the argument of like it's just making fishing too easy that did this similar thing, right? Like, they were an advancement in technology. It probably has the biggest impact just because you're able to see everything that's happening. But that doesn't mean that you catch every fish that bites either. So I think like part of the schedule, right, of guys doing it later in the year and like that was the end of the season, right? Versus if it would have been early in the year, there probably would have been some talk about it. And then if we went to like all shallow power fisheries and it wasn't really a thing, it probably would have faded away. And then this off-season conversation wouldn't be being had as much.
I want to ask you a question real quick, because if you look at the people that are upset about, or that are, commenting, bad about the forward-facing sonar, are these people the kind of old school? Is it more coming from that older generation? Because I'm thinking, like, if you ask all these younger kids and people, my age or, younger, like, are they complaining about it? Or is it just that, older class of folks?
I think it depends on what the argument is. I would say it's mixed a little bit more when you talk about the argument of boring to watch. Smallmouth tournaments have always been boring to watch.
Right.
And I'll agree to an extent that it is boring to watch, like when you watch it. But I'm also going to make the argument that that's not the technology's fault.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it doesn't matter what a guy's doing. If he's just standing up there, not talking, not explaining what he's doing. Like, people watch live because they want to learn. They want to see what's happening. They want to see fish catches. And there's no doubt it brings more fish catches. But we have to do a better job as anglers explaining, like, how we found fish, what we're doing, what we're looking at. And then the organizations, they need to step up their game and add more angles, overlays on the screen. Like, let's work together, like, as anglers and organizations, and let's just elevate our game. Let's not just try to ban something because people say it's to watch. They say it's going to watch, and that's actually the fact. Well, let's just elevate our game and make it not boring to watch, rather than just trying to cancel something out.
Yeah.
I feel like if they were going to ban it, they should have banned it in 2016 or 2017 when only 2 or 3% of anglers had it, right? Or 10% of anglers, kind of like the Alabama reg. When it first came out and it took off, it was banned basically immediately in all major tournament organizations. Like, at this point, we're too far into it to even think about it, in my opinion, because everybody has equal opportunity to have the technology on their boat.
Josh?
Yeah, it makes sense, Andy. And just going back to the boring to watch situation, like, bed fishing isn't that fun to watch, right? Like, when you've got a tournament that's being dominated by bed fishermen, you have a guy set up on a 7-pounder for 45 minutes, so focused that he can't say anything. That's no different. So, I think it's a great point that, like, as anglers and organizations, we need to identify some things that can make certain tournaments more exciting, because, and I know you want to talk about tournaments and scheduling later, Bailey, so I don't want to get too far into that right now, but, not every tournament you can't be, having frog blowups and blowups on a walking bait all day, every day, during these tournaments. It's more, of course, it's more fun to watch explosive action, but, it's fishing, and to have a good, diverse schedule, you've got to have some of this stuff. So yes, it's that it gets back to being on us a little bit, and also as an angler, to be a little more cognizant if you are on camera, like, be focused, but also don't be afraid to talk about what you're doing while you're doing it.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that one makes a better production, and two, I think selfishly as an angler, the more your personality comes out, I mean, it's better for you business wise. I feel like for you as an individual. But the one thing going to the smallmouth tournaments, I was really surprised to see how many people all of a sudden were complaining about smallmouth tournaments being boring, because they're like, oh, these guys, all they do is stare down at screens. Well, they were doing that before with 2D. Like, it was the same. It was the same concept. So I thought that was rather shocking in regards to how that was. But I mean, that's a great point of the organizations and the individuals, Brandon, working together on that. And we're gonna get to that, specifically here in a little bit, but I had some really good conversations with folks. We put out a post just asking people's opinions, trying to leave emotion out of it, but to tell if you're for it, why are you for it? If you're against it, why are you against it? And I had some really good conversations with people that were against it, and I asked them a simple question of like, if you had a new lake that two anglers, new lake, neither of them ever been to, one angler is given forward facing sonar, one angler is given mapping and side imaging, which angler do you think would do better? And there was a very hard question for them to answer, because I think one has more long-term impact, whereas the forward-facing sonar obviously is real-time impact of being able, precision casts, baits, isolate, specific targeted fish, etc. Whereas you get a way better lay of the land when you have mapping. I think it was on Mercer's podcast where he said, I want to say it was Welcher. Don't quote me on that. That was his guess. But they talked about how the mapping nowadays is more powerful than we're giving it credit for, whereas forward-facing sonar is obviously this big, shiny new thing, where the mapping now is exposing absolutely everything. Whereas before, you could find some stuff that wouldn't be on the map that you'd have to yourself. I'm curious from your guys' standpoint, the same question. The one angler with forward, the one angler with mapping and side imaging, who do you think is going to fare better on a brand new body of water, if that makes any sense? And Josh, we can start with you.
That's a great question. And I like that question, but I think the guy with the mapping has a chance to get on them quicker. I think the guy with the mapping can drive right to whatever zone of the lake or right to some structure that looks good and get on them quick. And of course, it depends on the bite. The guy that only has forward-facing sonar, it might take them days to find where the fish are at, right? It depends on when and where, but it's nasty to have the combination. That's what you want, is the combination, but one or the other. If I was going to a new body of water, especially a big body of water, I probably would need a map.
Sure. This is going to come full circle.
Imagine going to Lake Ontario and you're just like zero contours. Like, hey, drop your trolling motor and go find some bass.
Yeah, good live scope, dude. It's going to take you days to find them.
Yeah, see how
open a prayer.
Yeah, go on the same.
I'm just going to troll out to the ducks real quick. Here, just let me go.
Yep.
See how long before you.
How do I get there?
Rip off your motor. Yeah. Joey, what about you, man?
Be interesting.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Josh on that too. Like, thinking about mapping and how important it is. Like, if I didn't have mapping, I don't think I would be able to find the fish as quick. And I think that goes back to, your previous knowledge, the kind of foundation of the things that I've learned over the years. Like, you need that. And the forward-facing sonar is just a tool to help you catch the fish, So yeah, I'd go with the mapping guy for sure.
Yeah, I'm Brandon. I'm going to assume it's a similar answer, but anything to add on top of
that? I'm all about maps. I mean, so much so to the point, if I'm fishing around other anglers, like during practice, I see a guy idling around and stuff. If I know what brand of electronics that guy has, like if I know a guy doesn't have lake master cards on certain lakes, I'm less worried about him finding certain pieces of structure because I know that he doesn't have the mapping. Right? Where like I may be able to drive exactly to a place that someone else may overlook, and vice versa, right? Like they may have better mapping on a different place. But it's crazy how powerful that is versus forward-facing sonar. And I mean, I would way rather have mapping and side imaging for the sense of efficiency in how much water you could cover. Now, if it was a year-long tournament and on the size of the body of water, the forward-facing sonar guy might win because he might figure out, like where he needs to be by that time. Mm-hmm. But if it's a week-long deal and it's a big body of water, I don't think you could beat a guy that had the map, or you would have to just get way more lucky, right? Like the guy with the map and stuff is going to take a lot of the luck out of it.
Right. That makes sense. And so with that, getting you guys on here, one, obviously appreciate you guys taking the time. And one of the questions I had positioned, I obviously want all your viewpoints on, but really, Joey, was one of the reasons we really wanted to get you on here as Rookie of the Year for the elites. And because I've seen this comment been flown around and seen it from some prevalent individuals that I was kind of shocked by, because you were winning tournaments, if not top 5, well before you had forward-facing sonar. But this whole comment on the new guys, that it's a lot easier for you guys to do well because you're advanced with forward-facing sonar. And I thought that was a very shocking comment, but I'm kind of curious from your perspective, your 2 cents on all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's you can't. I mean, I have so much knowledge that I've gained over the years about what bass do in certain situations and different times of year, and like if I didn't have that, I mean, that's really putting the two together is obviously why I've had success. I mean, recently, but I had some in the past too. So, yeah, I mean, I don't buy that. I mean, it's the kids that are fishing, they have all the knowledge. They're learning just like everybody else. They're knowing all the techniques and different things to throw throughout the year. So, you can't just have a forward-facing sonar and do well in tournaments, and especially when it comes to Angler of the Year and Rookie of the Year, whatever. I mean, I caught a lot of fish this year on forward-facing sonar, but there were many tournaments that I did well in that, I never even turned it on or used it. So, yeah, I mean, to be a well-rounded angler, you have to be able to do everything.
For sure. Josh, you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, Joey's right. I think it's obviously, younger. It seems like as the years go by, younger people are better with electronics. Doesn't matter what type of electronics you're talking about. They grow up with them. So it's not, it's harder to teach an old dog new tricks, right? Like if you grow up with something, you're more natural with it. So yeah, some of these younger anglers are fantastic with forward-facing sonar. But, everyone's got the option to become proficient with it on their own, no matter who you are. And I do agree that, like, yeah, there are certain lakes and rare certain times where if you're good at live scope and you know nothing about fishing, you might be able to go have some success. But I think most of the time, your knowledge of bass and their habits, seasonal patterns, stuff like that is the most important thing. You got to get, you drop in on this big body of water. You have to get into the zip code that these bass live in before you can even think about using forward-facing sonar. And if you're clueless, you're never even going to get in the right zip code. So it's all important. And sure, I think you're seeing more success from younger anglers. But how about we start giving some credit to all the high school programs, the college programs, the amount of other information that's available on the internet and just publicly as well. Like when I think, Brandon, Joey, and I are all probably pretty similar age. And when we started, there was a lot of information out there, but it pales in comparison to what is out there now. I mean, hey, I was reading a magazine article trying to learn how to fish from that. Now, the amount of information that's on the internet, yeah, you could be 18 years old and know more than the best fisherman did, the best 40-year-old fisherman did 25 years ago. So it all, comes together. You can't just blame live scope or forward-facing sonar for it. Like there's so much information available to these younger anglers that they're going to keep getting better and better and better.
Yeah, the learning curve has rapidly accelerated because of that. Yeah, Brandon, anything on top of that?
I mean, I agree that, they both made great points and things that I've thought about. Yeah, Joey came in and won 2 events this year, and he's good with forward-facing sonar. But what about the fact that Larry Nixon was his mentor? Like,
yeah,
that might have helped some of his knowledge over the course of his career. The first $1 million man in bass fishing is your mentor. I think you probably have a good head start on people, and then that goes into that was the old school way of learning. You got the information through your direct peers and other people and mentors and things like that. And then to Josh's point of the amount of technology, like all of the guys before us and the guys that are competing now, and the guys that are going to come after us, we're literally teaching everybody how to take our jobs. Like, we're out there telling everybody how to do exactly what we spend hundreds and thousands of hours out there figuring out how to do, and then we put it in a video and say, here, this is how you go do it. And
How
so
about
of
live?
course, and live, like, you can watch hundreds and thousands of hours of live bass fishing. So there's no secrets. Like, everything is out there, and the amount of information, of course, it, like, guys are going to be better at a younger age because there's more information available. And if they're better with technology, they go and they scour the internet and they watch that stuff. Well, then they're shortening their learning curve even more. So it's like, the forward-facing sonar is a tool that allows guys to be more efficient, but it does not allow you to be able to just go catch bass without any other knowledge. It just happens to be there's a younger generation that has had their entire lives, right? Like, a lot of guys that are 18, 20 years old, they've had the internet their entire lives. Like, the internet hasn't been, it seems like it's been around forever, but like, the internet used to not be a thing when I was a kid. There was no internet. And now you can be 8 years old and you can go on YouTube and you can research everything, and find everything about bass fishing. And so I think that has more of an impact than any technology ever will, as far as, just being able to catch fish and how much better they are. It's just the fact that they're not locked into any one thing, and I think the professional bass fishing as a whole has shifted from, being a lot of guys being technicians in a certain category to much more versed angles across the board. And you can win being a versatile angler. Whereas before, you had guys that were really good at flipping. You had guys that were really good offshore, really good deep cranking. And that's kind of shifted because of all that knowledge. Guys just know how to do everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one thing, Andy and I looked through this too. You go back, since the BPT started, and also you look at, 5-6 years of the elites, and you look at the top, say, 20 in AOI, and you're going to see the same names there consistently prior to when this has become such a craze. Obviously, you have your exceptions here and there of guys having good years or bad years, and rookies coming in. But that, I've heard some great comments from folks that the guys that were doing well before forward-facing sonar are still doing well with it. Like, it's there's still something to it. It's just an added tool, and I think that's a great point to remember. And that it doesn't just because you have it doesn't mean it automatically makes you some secret weapon to catch them everywhere and everywhere, which is you guys have been making perfect points about. And so I know, Brandon, you got a roll here in a few, so I'm going to hit, if you got time for one last question here.
Yeah.
Just looking ahead forward, I know, Brandon, you hit on it a little bit earlier with, the anglers and the leagues working together to create a better product to reduce the amount of noise, I guess, for viewers. But around the horn, like, what solutions beyond that do you guys see that needs to be had to improve this, or, yeah, like you said earlier, it could have been scheduling, whatever it might be. But Josh, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think just being cognizant of everything that's going on right now, all the chatter, hey, there is something to it, right? You can't listen to every single person on the internet. You'll go crazy trying to please everybody. You'll never be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But, being aware of what's going on, what people are saying, and just trying to find ways to, make it a better place for everybody and a better viewing experience for everybody. So, yeah, I think having a diverse schedule is key. You never know how a tournament's going to go. Like, you might think you have a tournament where surely nobody's going to use forward and someone's going to go win it using forward. And then vice versa. You have one that you think is going to be dominated. Our last tournament at Saginaw Bay, ultimately it was won with it. But most guys had flipping sticks in their hands and frog rods in their hand fishing up shallow. So you never know how it's going to go, but at least be thinking about that. But more than anything, it's up to production and up to the anglers. And even maybe electronics companies too can help get involved and try to find a way to get what we're seeing to the viewers. Because I'll tell you, you want to talk about wanting to watch a show to learn. If you could see what we're seeing and learn what we're learning, you will catch a lot more fish.
Yeah, great points. Joey?
I don't really don't see a solution. I mean, I think ultimately if you just got rid of social media, this wouldn't even be a thing. So I think that's probably the main solution. But yeah, I mean, honestly though, if they could put screens up like on live and for us to watch, like they would have done that already. I don't think it's that easy. I think there's a lot more that goes into it. So I think we just keep rolling and fishing, and there's always going to be people complaining and moaning and growing, and it'll blow over with time. I think we just keep rolling. That's just my opinion.
I hear you. Brandon, I know you went into it a little bit earlier, but anything to add on top?
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of any cancel culture, no matter what industry it's in or where it's at. You know, I would rather look at something and say, okay, if we have a problem, how do we make it better? Like, let's not just get rid of it. We already have it. You know, to joke, like there's a lot of bad on social media, so we're just going to get rid of it all. Well, that's not going to happen. And so it's like, how do we, as anglers, as organizations, how do we make it better? And if there come out, there are studies where it is bad for the sport, you know, or someone can prove that, then I'm all for that. But right now, I don't see where it's bad for the sport. You know, I feel like as long as we're continuing to advance and learn more about the fish, like fish will always adapt. They've been adapting for years and years and years. You know, you think it took like 3 or 4 years for them. It didn't even take that long. It probably took 2 years for them to adapt to the Alabama rig. Now you still catch fish on it, but you don't go catch 50, 60 fish a day. You know, now it's a rig that you may get 7 or 8 bites on, and they may be a little bit bigger. But they adjusted to that quickly. And so it's just one more thing to allow us to look at it and say, how do we make it better? The overlay on the screens, it's actually not that hard. If you have an HDMI port in the back of your unit, which I think nearly all of them do at this point. I know Humminbird has it in their Apex units. That's why I ran one Apex unit this year. An HDMI cable through your boat when you rig your boat. It plugs in. Bass plugs it in to their live camera, and they've got a transmitter, and it transmits back to the studio. You know, and that technology should continue to get better, just like every other piece of technology. That should make that easier and easier. And I think that's one way to help people understand if they want to say it's boring. You know, and then it doesn't matter what's going on or how a guy's fishing. If the guy's not saying anything, it's going to be more boring than if he's explaining, you know, how he came about this. You know, and then it just goes back to the point of next generation is just going to be that much better because we're just going to continue to tell them, you know, how to catch them better and better, and they're just going to learn more and more and more. But for me, like, I love that challenge, right? It's like, what's the next thing? How do I stay ahead of the game?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, now you're like, how do you always continue to keep everyone trying to play catch up? You know, so even if you do teach somebody something, like, have the confidence that you're going to be able to go do it a little bit better. Because at this point, in whether it's on the elites or the Bass Pro Tour or the NPFL, it doesn't matter. Some guys are better at certain techniques, but as a whole, mechanics wise, everybody is pretty good. Everyone understands seasonal patterns, right? And everyone understands bass movements. And it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not in it 100% mentally, it doesn't matter how much technology you have or how much money you have or anything. Like, you're not going to catch them. If you're in the right areas, if you're not 100% invested, if you're just going through the motions, whether it's in practice or the tournament, you're not going to catch them. Even if you're staring at him on your graph and you watch your bait fall to his face, if you are not invested in that 100%, if your mind's on somewhere else, you're thinking about the next cast, you will not catch that bass.
Yep. Yeah, shoot, Andy sees it every single day guiding on Lake Erie of bass going down his bait.
Well, don't even get me started on the ones that chase it up like 15 feet and then chase it all the way down, and then they just bump it and they don't eat it. And I'm like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and then you just come back and they bit it off right behind the hook.
Yeah. Or they get the tail. I'm just like, like at least 20 times a day, I feel like. At least. It drives me insane.
I don't know. I mean, I know some guys are super, super against it. I'm not against it, but I'm also not going to sit here and argue and say that you have to have it. Because even if they said, if bass came out tomorrow and was like, oh, we're going to ban it, I'm still going to figure out a way to go catch them rather than like figure out a way to try to beat everybody else with what's available. That's always been the thing. If this is available, then I'm going to use that to my advantage to try to win, because it's a competition. Like, competition shouldn't be fair all the time.
Right. I see your point there, for sure. All right. Brandon, do you have to run?
Okay. Yeah, I probably should. Wife's still in there cutting elk up and grinding burger, so I probably shouldn't just sit here for hours and talk about forward-facing sonar. I should probably get back to work and get my hands bloody again. So
enjoy.
No, appreciate you guys having me on though, and look forward to seeing kind of where it goes from here.
Appreciate it, man. Congrats again on the elk.
But I agree. Like Josh said, it's probably not the last time you're talking about this.
I know. Appreciate it, dude.
See you, man.
All right. Well, I mean, from there, we've had a pretty dang insightful conversation. And I guess I think we're all on the same page when it comes to the future, like what needs to happen. I mean, I think we're seeing it in the comments too, of guys who are like, no one was complaining and people were raving about like the classic with Gussie, with that overlay and Gussie walking through what he was doing on the Tennessee River. People were raving about that. So I think maybe if there's some slight adjustments to, like you guys said, I hit it nail on the head, and that'll die down. It'll blow. Like Joe, you mentioned, it'll blow over, give people, I mean, like Brandon mentioned earlier too, like this happened at the very end of the season for both trails. And it's like now everyone has the whole off season just to go stir crazy and complain about something, and it'll probably blow over once postseason start next year. But in regards to the technology itself, to continue on the conversation, from your guys' experience, Josh, you've had it for a long time. Joey, I'm not familiar with how long you've had forward facing, but obviously you're on the water a hell of a lot. Have you guys seen the fish becoming aware of your forward-facing sonar, that they've become accustomed to it? I've heard from guys like on Lanier that fish are running away from it. I'm kind of curious your guys' take on that.
That's a good question, and that's one that it's so hard to give an honest or to give a answer as a fact, right? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of fishing in general is just opinions, and my opinion is it's nowhere near the point of like, I'd rather not even turn it on. I don't think fish are super accustomed to it. And I think even if some are, I would rather be able to fish for a weary fish that I can see than a fish that's not afraid of me, but I don't know where he is. Like I've seen some examples. Lake Fork was an example. A couple of years ago, we were at Lake Fork, and we're flipping stumps. The water was down. We're fishing stumps on the edge of a creek channel with a jig in the middle of the winter. These are the most pressured fish in the country. how many live scopes do you think they've had pointed at them? And you flip your jig to that stump where you see a fish and he bites. It's like, okay, well, I mean, hey, these are some of the smartest fish, most educated, biggest fish in the country. And they'll still bite. Now, I'm not going to, like I said, I think fish get accustomed to everything. They're smarter than we sometimes give them credit for. But, man, I still think the advantage is on the angler side over the fish's side when it comes to, like, you know, maybe they can feel those pulses, maybe they can't, but I still want to be able to see them if I can. And that, again, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to catch them. It's still, dude, I have days where I go out and catch 0 bass and I have live scope on my boat. So it doesn't make it easy, but I don't think it's anywhere near the point where the fish are actually getting scared of it and uncatchable.
Okay. Joey, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. I do feel like in certain situations I've seen, you know, some things where I'm thinking, man, these fish just, they know I'm here, you know, but I don't really know that I know for sure that it's my sonar or whatever. But I feel like in history, you know, like when we were over top of fish with 2D, that I felt like at one point they kind of got accustomed to that. Like, maybe they felt that or something. So I think it's definitely going to, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel like it's probably going to get tougher maybe in some situations. Maybe not so much in the beginning of the year, spring, but as fisher fish for it throughout the year, maybe later times of the year, it could get tougher, but even then it's tougher to catch them anyway. So that's a tough question, man. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you make a great point? I catch a lot less fish straight under the boat than I used to. And I don't know if it's because now I can see them so I can cast to them, but back in the day, dude, you'd see that slug of a line on your 2D sonar and drop your bait to it in 20 feet and he would go down and bite it. And now you see that fish under your boat and you drop to it and he doesn't bite it quite as much. So I think you make a great point that I don't think they let you get as close to them anymore for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the first time we've heard that either. I think we had an X2 power shoot after the elite tournament on the St. Lawrence. I think it was Carl was saying the same thing, where it's like it's so hard to catch them below the boat now. And I think what it's doing is it's just going to make this ebb and flow. You know, we're going to have another several years where we're able to figure out these offshore fish. And of course, there's always going to remain a shallow and offshore population of fish, but we've heard it talked about a little bit. I think it was Hackney on Bassmaster a while ago that was talking about this, where the more and more that anglers go out offshore using forward-facing sonar, the better the bank's going to get. More anglers might go to the bank, and the more you fish the bank, then the better the offshore. Like, each fishery is going to be different, but like the ones you're getting pressured enough, fish are going to move. You know, like when you watch a, you know, like put it in farm terms, when you have sheepdog that's herding the sheep, you watch where it goes, the sheep run away from it. Wherever the boats are going to go, fish are going to adjust. They're going to go away from where the pressure is. And it's just going to be this ebb and flow of where fish are going to be found, how they're going to be found. And we adjust because the fish adjust. And that's the main thing. The fish aren't just going to sit there and get pulverized. That's just, it's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because the great point last night on Alex Rudd's deal with Gene Gilland was there are creel limits for a reason. Those limits imposed on the states, because I know this has been a point brought up, is it's going to decimate populations of fish. And there's a reason why there's a creel limit on our certain lakes, but also the states of you have a capacity of the amount of fish you're able to keep per day. And if that becomes that it's the surveys are that the population is decreasing, the states are going to change them to protect that. They're imposed there for a reason, so the populations will be fine. And again, fish are going to adjust as there's more pressure. We watched it with COVID, right? More anglers, more people on the water. We had to adjust with that. We watched the fish obviously adjust to that. And it's just going to be this ever-changing game. That's my personal 2 cents on that. But
yeah, I would say 99% of the people listening do this thing called catch and release.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, especially bass fishermen. Like,
yeah, you're not. I mean, and I get the crappies and stuff like that. I get that, and again, that goes back to the limits, the creel limits. But as far as decimating a bass fishery, dude, I don't see it. I mean, I live out west where we have a lot less lakes than you guys do back east, and dude, half the fish you catch have been caught before. Like, I mean, I was out just the other day, and I'd say, you know, a third of the fish I caught had a visible, like, healed mark on their face of like, hey, they'd been caught and it healed, and you know, you could tell it looks a little funky, like that fish has been caught. It works. So I mean, they might keep getting smarter, but we're not going to wipe them out.
Yeah, and I really don't like the whole argument that of people keeping fish. Like, oh, people are keeping fish every day and they're using, you know, specifically more crappie guys or walleye guys. But what did we think was happening before forward-facing sonar? They were still keeping those fish. They're using a different technology now. And that's all that it is. It's just, you know, they go out for 5 hours, get their limit. Now they're going in 3.
That's true. They're probably still catching their limit. Those crappie guys, man, they know how to catch their limit no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, the crappie ain't going anywhere when you got 50.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still gonna catch them. It's just now you're more efficient with it. You know.
And now you can do it in 2 hours as opposed to 8.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So, anything? I know Andy's got one last question for you guys before we let you go, but anything from your guys' point of view that we might have missed, or things maybe you've seen, talk through the industry that we might have missed and want to comment on tonight?
I think you guys had great questions. Yeah, you know, you asked me earlier, and I was trying to rack my brain, trying to think of something else, and no, I don't think so. You know, it's a conversation that's going to continue on, and we'll see where fishing goes. Obviously, it's going to go one way or the other, but as of right now, I'm all for it. And hey, dude, I don't want to see these fisheries get decimated, or I make a living bass fishing.
Right.
So, like, dude, if I think we're in jeopardy here, I'm going to want to put a stop to it. Just, you know, like all professional fishermen would, right? But I just don't think we're anywhere close to that, and I don't know what the future holds either. I don't know how to predict the future.
Yeah.
I just want to fish. Like, you know, if they want to take it away, whatever, I still just want to fish. Like, it doesn't matter to me if they remove it or whatever. Like, I'm just happy with fishing. That's kind of okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess with that being said, before we hit you guys to the last question that Andy's got for you, I'll say to the people that are against it, a lot of them I found have never used the technology before. And I will say, I urge you to, and I'll give credit, there's been a lot of people that are against it, but there have been, it's very rare when you have conversations nowadays where you disagree with somebody and you can have a thoughtful discussion without emotions getting in the way of things. So I appreciate those folks, but get in the boat with somebody that has it. Go at least try it for a day or two, and then try to form an
to laugh, giggle. Like,
I've never seen more grown men giggle in their lives than with forward-facing sonar.
Yeah.
Especially if you can hit them on the head 80 feet away and you watch them come up 10 feet off the bottom to smoke your bait. Like, it's just incredible technology.
It's a blast.
That's right.
I get the cost thing. You know, hey, it's like, you know, a lot of people feel like, hey, well, now I need to go invest a couple grand to be able to compete. And I mean, dude, there's certain tournaments where there's no doubt, I'm not going to lie. Like, if you don't have it, you're at a disadvantage. But dude, I wish I had PXG golf clubs too, but I'm not going to invest the money in those. I'm going to have my 10-year-old set of golf clubs. You know, I understand that is like, I mean, fishing's getting expensive. Everything in this world's getting expensive. And it's one of the things in fishing that I don't love. Like a young aspiring angler right now, dude, he's going to need to find some cash somewhere to be able to be competitive on the tournament trail. And that's tough, dude. I definitely understand. But yeah, and you see the comment there, you know, gas is $550, boats are $100K. Like, this isn't just a live scope or a forward facing thing. Like, everything is expensive. Like, everything's expensive. This is just on par. It's par for the course right now in the world we live in.
A pack of flatworms is what, $9 a bag, I think, or $8 a bag, depending on where you buy them. And if you have forward facing sonar, you're guaranteed to go through probably 5 to 8 bags a day.
So, I went through like 4 bags yesterday.
You're preaching to the choir down there, Andy.
I'm speaking in terms of our viewers, all right? Like, nothing is cheap. And then your tungsten weight when a smallmouth throws it off when you're fighting it, there's $3 every time. Like, it's not cheap. It's a poor life decision to go full-time fisherman. I'll tell you that.
That's a good call, dude.
It's expensive.
Golf is cheap compared to fishing.
I actually do agree with you. Like, because I started golfing a little bit this summer, and I've only gone through like 6 golf balls. I'm like, man, this is pretty cost effective. I've also avoided golf courses with water. So
Okay.
Yeah, but
Good point.
yeah, but like,
Smart.
yeah, it's there, it's available. Everybody has the opportunity to own it at this point. And when you go and buy your $100,000 boat, which a lot of these guys are probably complaining about it, that they just didn't add it on when they bought their boat. Like, from a person who came from finance to add in that extra graph, it's like $6 a month on your loan for the duration of your loan. Just slap it on there when you build your boat. Now you don't have to worry about buying it off the shelf and installing it yourself. It can come packaged on your boat. And you're at an advantage of, like everybody else is. Now the trick is learning how to use it. So, because that's the hard part.
Well, Andy,
Yeah,
with our last question.
All right, this will be a fun one. So, if all technology was banned besides GPS mapping, besides forward-facing sonar, what would your ideal boat setup be with just forward-facing sonar on it and mapping?
Okay, so we get forward-facing and mapping?
Forward-facing and mapping. What would your ideal boat setup be?
So are you talking like the whole boat or like
just your
electronics you want?
Yeah,
electronics.
Transducers, how would you have them mounted, etc.?
Yeah, so I mean, in the back, you're only going to need. Well, I mean, can you put one live scope in the back too?
You can put it wherever you want.
Yeah. So
what is your ideal setup?
Give me 10 live scope transducers, and I'm gonna put them all over the boat, facing every angle. LVS 34s from Garmin, and
you're not gonna go the ocean one, the LVS 62.
No, dude, I tried it. It didn't really work, man. But honestly, dude, if you could only run live scope and you couldn't run 2D or down, I'd put one in the back too, just to have one at both so you could see your depth and see fish and stuff like that. But yeah, I would probably still be running 2 units in the back, 2 12-inch Garmins, the Echo Maps, 126s, and then one I'd use mapping and one I'd use live scope. Now, again, dude, I'm trying to be realistic here. You could give me 5 and I could run a lot, but one of those in the back, and then up front, if you want to go nuts again, I'd like 2 up front, 1 on perspective, 1 on live view forward, and then a unit for mapping. But dude, me right now, I'm running 2 units up front, 2 in the back. I may end up running 3 up front next year. We'll see. That seems 3 is the new 2. I wouldn't mind seeing the leagues put a 4 unit minimum on, dude, just because it is kind of. It's a lot, dude. It's a lot to get the boat rigged and to do all this. And the whole thing is just a lot. And hey, everyone's looking for an edge. And like, it's a competitive world. Both of these tours are extremely competitive. And you do anything you can to get an edge. And dude, it doesn't matter what it is. If you think it's going to give you an edge, you're going to do it. And then you do it for a year, and then everyone else in the league does it. And then you got to find something else to go a step above. So everyone had 2 graphs on when I started in 2013 on tour. And now like 4 is skimpy. It's so, and it's a whole nother conversation. And that's why the conversation's not going to stop, because there's a lot to this thing, and there's a lot of money involved on the angler side, on the company side, on the tournament circuit side. It's just a very complicated situation.
Makes sense.
I can't even answer your question, dude.
It's loaded.
Yeah, I can't. I want to hear what Joey thinks.
So what am I doing now? I got. Go ahead.
Whatever forward-facing sonar units you want in mapping.
So yeah, I thought about that. I would have 1 live scope transducer on the front of my boat, and I'd have a Garmin. Obviously a Garmin goes with that. I like the 86. I think it's the 8600 series. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah. Yeah, that's their highest end unit. It's the super high pixels. Yep.
So I'd have one of those, and then I don't have an electronic sponsor, so I would have a Lowrance and a Hummingbird for both of their mapping, mainly the Hummingbird, and then on the back I would have a Hummingbird and Lowrance. So I guess my boat would probably be exactly the same. Take off the other transducers. Like I don't think I need anything else. I could just do what I'm doing and
set Larry Nixon mindset. He knows where to find fish.
I like to keep things really simple. That's just the way I am. I don't need a bunch of. I mean, if you had 2 live scopes in the back shooting out the side, you could go idling around and find stuff. But I just find myself more and more at these tournaments pulling up to a point, and just if I need to find something, I'll just use my live scope to do it. Like I do some idling, of course, but I don't think it's necessity for me anyway, so 1 transducer, 4 graphs, or 3, I guess, or 5. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I like it.
We lied. Last question, just because it came up in my mind right now. But fun fishing wise, take tournaments out of the picture. Would you guys take the old jet boat route, like one little, set or 2D mapping unit and go a little jet boat deal?
Sometimes it'd be a blast, dude, but not all the time.
Right.
It's just not, you're talking to a desert boy, dude, that grew up fishing deep. It wouldn't work that well for me out here, but yeah, maybe if I lived somewhere else.
I was gonna say maybe Joey, that's more your neck of the woods.
Yeah. I'm not a mud holer, like go back into stuff though. I think and Larry's not either. He kind of influenced me on that. So I like to fish deep primarily. I'm not a big shallow water fisherman. I mean, I will, but so no, I don't think I would do any of that. I'd leave that up to Keith Poche.
I hear you. Well, fellas, seriously, we really appreciate you guys taking the time out to come join us on this. Obviously, like we mentioned, everyone's talking about it almost at a nauseating level, but appreciate you joining us and helping us have a voice in this as well, because the answers were great. It was super insightful. Guys, the people that joined tonight and the people that are listening, super appreciate your time as well, and your guys' words of wisdom. So appreciate the time. I know it won't be the last time we get you guys on here, but appreciate you coming and joining tonight.
Next time it won't be about forward-facing sonar.
Yeah, that's right. We promise.
Yeah, well, 2.0, Joey, come on, dude.
Yeah, Joey, we're gonna shadow it. We're gonna tell you it's about something else. By the way, so Joey, we're talking forward-facing sonar tonight.
He's like, delete. I'm out.
He's like, I'm out. See you later.
Who's this?
No, I mean, it's what's going on. So, like, we got to talk about it. I mean, I guess I shouldn't have said that earlier, but it's, it is what it is. I mean, it's bass fishing. It's the hype now. So we'll chat about it, but just cut out the social media and everything will be all right.
That's right.
Well, boys, these guys make a living, dude. Good luck with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. There's whatever.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you, guys. Seriously appreciate it. We'll talk to you both real soon.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, guys.
See you, fellas. Well, Andy,
fun.
I think that went well. I think that was insightful for a lot of people. I was surprised we didn't have as many trolls in the comments. We had a couple, but trollers are now.
That's all right. They're welcome.
Yeah,
any comment is a good comment. So like you can, and that's one beautiful thing about like this platform we have, right? Like opinions are valid. You're allowed to have your opinion. Yeah. It's just, it's hard to have an opinion if you've never used the technology. And that's, and I've had it now on my boat for 1 full year. And this is my one and only point I'm going to make here. And I know you've had a little bit longer, Bailey. I have learned more, not how to catch bass. I've learned more about their behaviors being positive and negative and where they live in a lake. Like I've caught fish in areas, and now with forward facing, I'm like, oh my gosh, now I know why even more that they're here besides like side scan, because it gives you the full detail of what's going on the bottom if you're pointing at a specific piece of structure the correct way. It's more of an informational tool. You learn so much more without even catching fish. And to the point of seeing bass run away, being on Lake Erie every single day, basically, and using forward-facing sonar, guide trips, fun fishing tournament, I can say a majority of the fish that run away from me are walleye and sheephead. Most of the bass on Lake Erie, in my opinion, will actually show themselves when the boat pulls up. And I think it's just because they're curious. Largemouth spots could be completely different, but a lot of smallmouth will actually rise up and show themselves and then go back down. And if you know how to cast and hit that 40, 50, 60, 80, 90 feet away from the boat, dead on that angle and right on their head, that bass bites like 50 to 80% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, it's for me, I'll agree with you. Like tournament fishing or fishing, whatever, I can fish without it. That's perfectly fine. It doesn't make me feel one way or the other. To me, it's like a thing, like being in an aquarium.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I could go out there and see like what you're exactly saying, being able to just watch these fish. I can leave the rods in the truck, just pan that tech, and being able to see these fish, how they behave, understand. Like when you go on a rock pile and you see those fish out on our minds prior to forward, we're thinking, oh, all those fish are always there. They're sitting right there. They're just waiting for baits.
Oh, it drives me nuts when I
They
pull up
move like crazy.
and I'm like, where are they? And then you pan like 70 feet to the left and you're like, huh.
What are you doing in the mud?
Yeah, like what are you doing over there?
Yeah, I think one important point I want to make too is that, and really the trolls actually, as long as they're not being like ugly in regards to like saying nasty stuff, I find it funny. So I encourage. I'll have a beer with them. It doesn't matter. And that was one of the conversations I actually had with somebody today. There was somebody that was getting a little emotional in a comment section. And we ended up just getting in the DMs, and it's like, hey man, let's put emotions. Let's actually talk about it. Let's have a thoughtful, mature conversation. And at the end of it, we still disagreed that they didn't like forward facing something. They didn't like technology in general. I love technology, but we agreed. We're like, hey, we can just agree to disagree. We'll still go have a beer and go fishing. Like, dude, I'll leave the electronics at home and go fishing with you any day. It don't matter.
I think I love turning them off and getting up shallow and having a time. Like, and I think that's the argument to be said here is that you don't have to have it, right? Like, it's your choice not to have it, but if it's available to you and you don't have it, you don't want to use it, that's fine. But if you're in an event that you need it, you are going to be left way behind.
Here is a great example of that. So this past week in state championships, the fish that I found 3 weeks ago. When I was going up to the St. Lawrence River X2 power shoot and decided to go fun fish it along the way and found these fish. And they're rogue chasing bait. I found them they're deep saddles that I found with side imaging and mapping, but was targeting them specifically with forward-facing sonar. And didn't think there's no way these fish are here when I come back for tournament. In practice, go to the same spot. Just, you got to check it, right? You got to look at it. Pull up. What do you know? They're still there. Like bait balls, pods of them. Like, man, if they stay another 2 days, like this could be fun. And they stayed. But Thursday afternoon, I went to a different ramp and put in, and my electronics won't turn on. And typically, if I hadn't had anything figured out, I would be like, fine, we're going to make do. Like if I can fix them, I can fix them. If I can't, we're going to figure it out. But this time of year, the summer to fall transition, these fish get so hard on bait and feed up throughout the fall that I was telling my buddy this. I was like, look, this is a 2-day event. If this was a 1-day shootout, I wouldn't worry about this. I'd go get a swim bait, a flipping bait. I'd go figure it out and I'd beat the bank. I'd go cover this whole dang lake. But I said, with a 2-day event, without it, it is so much harder to be as consistently successful. Like if I had it, I can damn sure guarantee myself a top 3 with the size class I'm on, how they're presenting. You can catch them. You can catch them still, but it's going to it went from, and this speaks to the power of the tech, but again, you still have to find these fish. Where I found them, no one else found these fish. No one else even knew about it. There was one boat that figured it out Sunday, and that was because he saw me catching them out there. And he told me that, have it on GoPro. So like it's one of those things you still have to be able to find these fish, but it made such an impact where you can still catch these fish. It might turn your 40 bite day into a 10 bite day, which is all fine. But it shows that you don't need it, but there definitely is an impact to it. And so it was one where it's like I acknowledge the fact, look, I don't want to have them, but in this case, for me to win or have a chance at winning, it was important. So it's an interesting thing where it's like tournaments. I do what I want to do to win, and I have fun doing that. I love electronics. I love getting out and seeing these fish interact. I giggle like a little kid when these pods of smallmouth, 30 of them, come rocketing up to the surface after my Demiki rig. And you're just like, oh, you're like Andy and I were laughing for 3 hours straight
when it took us 4 hours to find them. But
once you actually find them, like it was so much fun. And anybody that doesn't have fun with it, like all the power to you. We totally respect that. If you haven't used it, I encourage you to go out with someone that knows how to use it. Because one, you will just learn a lot. And if you still don't want to use it, hey, that's all fine.
It's completely fine. I know plenty of guys that win a lot of tournaments locally that don't have it on their boat. So I don't think we can argue and fight with people because we don't think that we personally need it. And I think that's one of the biggest faults we have in humanity is the fact that we're so opinionated and we're so right in our own mindset that we don't care what other people think. We are right and everyone else is wrong. And I think we could change that. And to your point, Bailey, sit down, have a beer with somebody. I'm sure you'll find a lot more common ground than disagreement ground, no matter what you believe in. So just got to talk and 100%. We can figure it out. Yeah. And Tyler's point real fast, May, June, September, October. Send me a DM. We'll talk.
Right now.
Yeah.
Man. Dude, I'm excited for the fall bite. We have two. We mentioned, I think in the beginning, the next 2 weeks, I am traveling for work, literally Monday to Friday. So Andy and I are going to have some episodes out. I don't think we're going to have a live stream over the next 2 weeks. So we'll just have 2 episodes a week. We'll keep the same cadence for you guys show wise. It'll just be pre-recorded shows. And then we'll be back. We have some pretty exciting guests coming up. Some pretty exciting news. We have something new, a new show coming. I told you guys with Hamner on Tuesday, we have a new show coming to the network in November. And can't give you more details on that yet, but keep following along on social media as well as keep listening to the shows, and you guys will get more deets as we get closer. But pretty excited about that. And I think this show was super insightful. I hope everyone enjoyed it. If you have comments, and I'm sure a lot of people do, send us an email, get in touch in the comment section. If you're watching on YouTube, DM us on Instagram or Facebook, whichever is easier for you. We'll love to chat about it. Have adult conversations about it. And just because, again, and this is a thing that in this situation, I think a lot of people forget is we're here for a bass. Not even just a bass. We're here for fish. We're here because we love getting outside. We love getting out in nature, and we love that old doink that's on the end of your line when you get a bite. That's the reason we're here. That's the drug, right? So let's remember that's what it is. And this technology helps you get a little bit more bites if you know how to find the dang fish in the first place. So, folks, appreciate y'all. Andy, anything else for him?
No, not this moment. I'll throw this out there real fast. If you do want a guide trip, because Tyler asked here in our comments, for 2024, I have like 8 days left in May, like 5 or 6 days left in June. July, I'm going to open up a little bit more. And my September and October are actually starting to fill up too. So 2024 is almost booked. So if you want to get in to catch some big Lake Erie smallmouth or chase largemouth of the Finger Lakes, make sure you reach out sooner than later. Otherwise, dates are probably going to be gone.
Heck yeah. And I'll remind folks too, if you guys want to hear this whole conversation from a biologist standpoint, go to Alex Rudd's, either his podcast or his YouTube channel with Gene Gilland. Some pretty good conversation over there. But this will be, we might talk about the actual tech being used for fishing soon, but we are not going to have a forward-facing sonar focus show for quite a long time because we were kind of hesitant to even talk about it in the first place. But I'm glad we did, and appreciate the three gents, Brandon Palaniuk, Joey Cifuentes, and Josh Bertrand joining us tonight to talk about it. Amazing folks. Follow their social medias if you're not already. We have that all in the description of the shows. Y'all are amazing as always, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.